Brat summer is here, Joe is gone, and Kamala is in. Sources within the Trump campaign are experiencing worry as they see monumental support rally behind the Democrats. It's been a wild month, to say the least. July will definitely go down as one of the craziest months ever in politics. However complicated politics can be, with delegates, superdelegates, electoral college, you name it, there's one trend that is set to turn politics upside down. A trend that Gen Z is really taking a passion to. And while a lot of older viewers might think that this is just some silly kids playing some silly games, well, these kids can now vote, and they will definitely vote this come November. Before we dive into this Brat summer, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. It really helps us out, and it helps you be informed. So, Brat summer, what is this? Well, for context, this is a huge social media trend going on right now, and it's taking the internet by storm. Just go on TikTok, go on Instagram, you'll see it. You can see that this is a similar trend to what the Barbie movie was last summer, when Barbie was everywhere. People were wearing pink, people were tweeting about it, and it even opened up some important conversations. Now this summer, we have Brat summer. Now we can thank the British pop star Charli XCX for this. She has recently released an album titled Brat. This album cover is simple and just a slime green color with the lowercase word brat. But it's what it stands for is what's really making this trend take off. In a nutshell, to be a brat is to be like bold, creative, a little bit edgy. I mean, just look it up on Twitter or TikTok. You'll definitely see what a brat is in this context. So right now, after Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race, the Biden HQ Twitter page was taken over by Brat. So they even made the banner of their Twitter page the Brat Summer font. Like a wildfire, we started to see memes and edits circulate on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. This is a level of excitement we have never seen from young people in an election cycle in a very long time. We're seeing millions of Gen Z people circulate these memes like crazy, sending them to their friends on Twitter and Instagram, everywhere. Whether it be coconut memes or edits of Kamala laughing, I don't think we've seen this level of excitement from Gen Z towards a presidential candidate maybe ever. I mean, it's also important to note that Gen Z is pretty young and only been around for like 2 or 3 election cycles, but it's something nevertheless. Now, Gen Z is having a pretty fun time with this. It now seems like the Harris campaign has now adopted a strategy that companies have already known for a good bit now. To talk to Gen Z, you need to know what Gen Z is doing, watching and listening to. In this case, Charli XCX is extremely popular with Gen Z. And why not? I mean, she's pretty awesome. Companies can sell any type of product with ease if they target Gen Z through social media ads or influencer marketing. Now, all this has been adopted by the Harris team, and it's working, and I'd say it's working pretty effectively. Trump's team is apparently showing some signs of worry. I mean, let's take a step back here. Joe Biden really didn't have the largest social media presence, besides the dark Brandon craze or him eating ice cream like all the time. I mean, ice cream is good, but who's on your Spotify top 10, Joe? Trump, on the other hand, has tried, I guess. I mean, he has Trump NFTs, Trump shoes. He has some appeal there. He's friendly towards Logan Paul, which, I mean, could get you some votes. And it's actually given Trump millions and hundreds of millions of views. The point here is that both Trump and Biden did not really utilize the secret campaign weapon that is social media. Now, let's be honest here. In the eyes of Gen Z, the TikTok generation, how is Trump appealing to most Gen Z people? How is Joe Biden appealing? So what happens when you replace one of those old guys with a younger person who actually has a pulse on social media? Well, you see an enormous rally behind them. Now, this isn't just talk, it's reliable surveys, and polls are now showing that Kamala's support among younger voters has greatly shifted in their favor. Kamala Harris has gained massive support among young people in most states. Now, these are just polls, and we can't really rely on that, right? But the excitement on social media supports this. Now, we've seen massive support towards other candidates in the past when they are able to actually utilize social media effectively. One popular name is AOC, who's constantly online and connecting with her Gen Z audience. She's basically chronically online. It helps that she's also around their age too. On the other end, we had a conservative Madison Cawthorn. He was able to connect with young conservatives and grow a pretty large following on Instagram. He was able to win his congressional seat and become, I believe, the youngest member of Congress at the time. But the playbook is there. If you want youth turnout, not only do you have to talk about policy, but you also have to relate to them. By having your campaign team adopt pop culture elements, I think you can make the argument that they can attract new Gen Z voters that really didn't exist beforehand. This is going to be a very tight election cycle, and you can hear that in the news and the polls, especially in some of those swing states like Michigan or Pennsylvania. Even if Kamala is just able to garner a few thousand Gen Z votes from all these coconut tree memes, that's going to be something. One thing that makes social media political marketing so successful is that the sheer fact that Gen Z is constantly on their phone on social media. We have talked about this extensively throughout our channel. Gen Z won't be the largest voting pool. They're only going to make up around 10% of the entire eligible voters in 2024. In 2020, 50% of eligible Gen Z voters casted their ballots. We can probably expect to see a similar Gen Z turnout or even more in 2024. Now, the youth vote has always been a huge factor in presidential elections. It helped Obama get elected back in 2008, where Millennials saw a 51% voter turnout at that time. Now, there's a huge divide between how Gen Z votes as well. According to a Pew Research poll, around 61% of Gen Z leaned more Democrat, while only 22% leaned Republican. So that's a huge voter population that is heavily leans pretty much one way. Why wouldn't you relate to them on TikTok and Instagram? The Brat summer that we're seeing, as silly as it may be, might be a very advantageous political move. Gen Z made up around 9% of the entire voter electorate back in 2020. Estimates put Gen Z being around 10% in the total voter share for the 2024 election. If this number surpasses expectations, so if Gen Z turnout ends up being around 11 or 12% of the entire voter pool, Gen Z will already be heavily skewed towards the blue team. Then we might be seeing a pretty big Harris victory. So you see, targeting young voters based off pop culture references can greatly shift the tide. This is something that Republicans don't really have in their back pocket just yet in terms of Gen Z voters. We can also state that Gen Z is very easily persuaded, especially if they see other people posting about something or talking about something, in this case, coconut memes or Brat summer. The barrage of Kamala Harris content on Gen Z feeds and the positive energy associated with her and her campaign will likely get more and more Gen Z people on the bandwagon. The bandwagon effect is a pretty powerful factor with Gen Z. Just see how many Gen Z people sold out Taylor Swift Era Tour concerts week after week. If you have that similar level of optimism, but then you turn it political, you could see millions and millions of voters turning your direction. The election will be pretty interesting to see just how many Gen Z voters turn out. If Trump wins a second term, many critics will say that the Harris campaign was silly or childish and following these pop culture trends with little Gen Z interaction. Although if this election is won by Harris and we see the largest Gen Z voter turnout, this may be a huge turning point for political campaigns in the future. Harris's team would have laid out a blueprint on how to win more support for Gen Z. I know what a lot of critics will say. She doesn't even talk about policy or anything really of relevance with these memes, right? Well, here's the thing, you have to get Gen Z's attention first, especially since they are the most digital generation ever. Once you show that you have a social media pulse, many people will then gain more trust into you. In 1 week, the Kamala HQ page gained around 2 million followers on TikTok. Her first campaign video, which featured Beyonce's Freedom song, now has well over 18 million views on TikTok. If that isn't Gen Z excitement towards a candidate, I don't know what is. Most videos under Biden had only around 100,000 views on TikTok. Most of Kamala's videos are now pushing well over 1 million. She now has 3 videos that are well over 10 million views. Hashtags relating back to Kamala's campaign have now been trending for a whole week now. But it isn't just the Kamala camp that has a bunch of views under their belt. Trump has recently joined TikTok too this past June. He did a video with UFC's Dana White that had well over 165 million views. Trump's new TikTok is getting massive views as well. I mean, it's a lot. They also have a huge opportunity here to get in front of more Gen Z voters. With over 9 million followers in just 2 months, Trump's team is not sleeping on the social media TikTok train. And as we get closer to November, we can expect Trump's team to push heavy on TikTok. Another Trump video with him and Logan Paul has well over 150 million views as well. That's a lot of people. Can we also talk about the irony here that both of these candidates have expressed concerns over TikTok and now both of them are embracing it? Either way, we're seeing just how effective TikTok will be in shaping presidential elections going forward. If this 2024 election goes in favor of Harris, we will see even more Republicans adopt a similar strategy to get more of that Gen Z vote. We can also see if Trump's message will gain more support among Gen Z voters now that he's on TikTok. I mean, you also have to acknowledge that Trump's team is still very active on other platforms like X or Twitter. By his team, I mean his followers. They're very active there. Come election day, polls won't really matter, as history has shown us in the past. But let's see what direction Gen Z votes and how they vote. Will this TikTok interaction by both parties actually have an effect on Gen Z and their, voter share? We'll see. Well, guys, let me know what you think about this trend here. Is Gen Z set up to change the way that presidential campaigns are run? Or will this honeymoon period end and Gen Z won't really vote that much? We'll see. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out and it helps the channel grow. It keeps you informed. We'll be back with another video next week.